Welcome to Coach Connects. Coach Connects is an umbrella programme for Irish cricket coaches, providing opportunities for qualified coaches and non-coaches alike to share knowledge, network, participate in training and to learn from some of the best coaches in cricket. This is our coach discussions piece, where we give coaches the platform to share their story. You'll hear from coaches, giving insights on coaching from different sporting codes that will help you in your coaching journey. I'm your host, Stephen Maxwell, and this week our Coach Discussions special guest is Emma Butler. Welcome, Emma.
Hi, Stephen.
So to start with, and to share with our Cricket Connects community, Emma, who is Emma Butler?
So Emma Butler is a 23-year-old newly graduated student. Well, I don't know if I can call myself a student anymore, seeing as I've graduated. But yeah, so I'm still kind of trying to find what's next for me in life. But first and foremost, what I'd say is I'm a cricket coach in my club, and I'm also a women's first team captain for my club team. And just what would appear to be a cricket fanatic for volunteering for so many different things within cricket. So that's kind of me. Also this year I took on a couple different jobs within cricket. So within my club I took on the role of a youth cricket coordinator for girls cricket in Clontarf. So I did that for the first time this summer, and it was really enjoyable. And then I was also working with Cricket Leinster and Cricket Ireland to deliver the Smash It and its Wicket programs to clubs around Leinster.
Wow, there's an awful lot to take in there, and hopefully we'll be able to discuss everything there and showcase exactly what you do in each role. So thanks very much for sharing, Emma. So you're a cricket fanatic. In terms of cricket coaching, would you be able to give us your own personal definition of what is coaching?
Yeah, so I think coaching is something you do to share your knowledge and your time with it, be it younger players of your own age, or even it could be older players as well. And it's just really kind of handing them the tools that they need to succeed and potentially achieve whatever that may be for them, because it's different for everybody within sport and life as well, because especially when you're coaching cricket, it's not just the actual cricket coaching that you're doing. Like, you're also helping people, especially kind of young adults in that teenager years. You're helping them kind of get their next step of what they want to do, and inspiring them in different ways through just basically speaking to them and listening to them. So I think coaching is a really dynamic thing, and it changes depending on what the environment you're doing it is.
Brilliant, great answer, Emma. So like, why do you coach in the first place? What is it you get out of it?
I think it's coaching for me is really, really rewarding. So I really enjoy going down to the club a couple times a week and standing there with a group of girls, because it's mainly girls that I coach, and have them look back at me with blank faces, not knowing what they're going to be doing for the day, and then be able to tell them and kind of see them starting to buzz off each other. And I find that that's really, really rewarding, because you're sparking something in each one of those people that they didn't have when they rocked up, and you're giving that to them to then go and explore what it is that you're coaching them in for the entire session. And then most importantly is that kind of post-session review, where you're asking them what they've learned. And yeah, of course, some of them are going to turn around and tell you that they got so much out of it, and others will still stand there with the blank face on you. But at least you can turn around then to those ones with the blank face and ask them if they enjoyed it. And I think if they enjoyed it, that I'm a happy coach leaving, and that's the main thing for me. It's just to share my time, everything I know, the skills, the knowledge with these girls, and just know that they've enjoyed themselves.
Brilliant. And listen, you've mentioned girls on numerous occasions there throughout it. Okay, so I'll ask you, you're currently a role model to those young players. When you were coming through as a younger player in Clontarf, did you have those female role models yourself?
Yeah, I did. So I had two really important coaches. They were for me throughout me being a youth player in Clontarf. and one of them is an ex-Irish international. So I had Laura Cullen and Laura Erskine in Clontarf, who were my two coaches, and they were two very different coaches, but the two of them there just kind of they were in the role that I wanted to be in. They were the coaches, but they were also the players. And both of them actually ended up being captains of teams I played on. So that was really, really important for me. I didn't realize it at the time, but through kind of sitting there thinking about how coaching started for me and just cricket in general, it was those two people who just showed an interest. So I decided I wanted to keep going back to the sessions. And that was really big for me. Like, I'm not the best cricketer in the club. I'm far from it, or even from the women's section, but something that they did, and I really do think it was just them showing an interest and them wanting to be there, made me feel wanted within cricket, and that's why I'm still there today.
That's fantastic, and thanks for sharing that, Emma. So obviously we've mentioned coaching a few times, and you've talked about the female role models.
Yeah.
How did you actually get started on your coaching career? Because obviously you're still actively playing, but what was it that actually got you on that ladder to where you are now as a coach?
Yeah, so kind of in our club, we've got what's called our Friday night cricket. So that's just Friday evenings. They started off as being 1 hour when numbers were quite small, and now they've gone up to 2 hours because you kind of get in excess of about 250 to 300 children on a Friday night during the summer. And I started off there. So someone just asked me that they were short someone to just come down and throw some tennis balls. And that's where I got started. And then every Friday I kept coming back. And that was kind of, it wasn't essentially coaching. It was more facilitating the coaches that were there and helping them out. And that got me started. And from that, then I remember that my sister, who's actually a couple of years younger than me, she was playing a match one day, and the coach that was there on the day just needed a hand with the warm-up, and she asked me to come over and just hit the balls to the girls, and I started doing that. And then all of a sudden I was always at my sister's games, but they constantly asked me to do the warm-up, and then they started inviting me down to the club sessions to just kind of have a look, and slowly but surely I kind of ended up throwing more balls and kind of creeped into it from there. I don't know if I was the annoying not little kid, but I don't know if I was the annoying person on the side, just kind of taking up some space. But that's how coaching started for me, and from that I've always been there every summer.
Brilliant. And in terms of your coaching career so far, how many years are we in?
I think we're today on about year 7.
Brilliant. And yeah. I suppose every year is a new learning experience for you.
Yeah, massively. Like, I think that first year is always the most daunting for any coach, because you don't really know what you're in for. And again, you're basing it off what you have, the skills you have. So year 1 was definitely very kind of tough in a way, but still enjoyable because it was something new. But now, you're getting new learnings, both in how you're delivering a skill, be it, if you're teaching. I'm not the best batter. I'm really not. I try to keep down at number 11 and not bad at all. So I don't take coaching batting as a strong point of mine. But from that, every year I've learned some things that now I can deliver the basics to children and adults. But it's not just kind of that skills thing. It's also just learning how to kind of be a better person in a way and be a better coach. Which has been really, really huge. And I think that's aided my life outside of cricket as well.
Fantastic. And you've mentioned there that you're a recent graduate now, so sociology and linguistics. Okay. Yeah. So in terms of coaching and graduation, is there any overlap? And is there anything that supports each other in terms of your coaching?
So like, I studied sociology, so that's a lot about how society works and people to an extent, and kind of the relationships between people. And that's been something that has stood to me, and I've realized it within the last year. So coming out of final year this summer, everyone's getting older, so the players I've been coaching for years are now older. I'm playing with them, and you've got that relationship change, and it has to change based on the situation we're in. But from what I know from college, that's really helped in being able to step back and have a look at what the relationship is, its potential to what it could be, and that bit in between where you've got to really kind of nourish it and be kind of careful in a way that, not that you're tiptoeing around it, but that you're just conscious that there's a possibility for the relationship you're building to just break with one tiny thing. And I think the beauty of sport is that it can be very unknown, and it's builds attention on the relationships as well, because everyone's got different views in everywhere in life, but especially in sport, because some people are just that little bit more into it than others, and it's trying to balance that. So kind of I've been able to go back at notes of where I've learned stuff about relationships and go, okay, actually that's what happened in training today, or maybe this is what it is. So that's been really important.
Brilliant. So I suppose you're in a very unique position. So obviously you've coached the underage, you're captain of the first team, and now you have some of those players coming into the first team. So that makes you a very unique coach slash person slash player, right? So in terms of your learning, what would be the biggest learning experience from that? And what would you share with someone who possibly could be in the same position over the coming years?
Yeah, so I think the biggest learning is to remember that you've got to adapt based on the situation you're in. So it's adapting about the way I communicate, because that's extremely important. I'm not just going from that kind of delivering a message to the players I'm coaching anymore. I also have to remember that you've got that deeper rooted communication that needs to be there, and it can be really difficult in explaining, to players why they might not be picked, or why they're not getting to bat number 3 where they want to, or opening the bowling. So that's been it's been really tricky to balance and understand how to do it, but without adapting to it, I'd be potentially not a captain anymore, or in a very different situation, and there might not be that that balance between me as a captain and my players, and we might not have as good a relationship as we do. So kind of just all about adapting to that, but then also remembering that some players that you're captaining aren't there for the same reason as others. So it's kind of remembering that the players who want to go on and play for Ireland, they might be there and they might really put themselves out there. And as a captain, you do need to, kind of guide them in the right direction and help them out with that. But you also can't remember the others who don't want that. They're just there to play cricket, to have fun, to be social, make friends, and just enjoy the sport. So it's almost like you've got to be 3 different captains all in one, because you're captaining different people. So that's a really interesting thing to find my way through, and I most definitely still am finding myself through that, because everyone's intentions of playing sport change every season. Like I know girls that have just finished up the season who started the season not wanting to be there and are now like devastated to be walking away from it. So that's quite a difficult thing to do. So all I'd say to kind of someone who might find themselves in that situation now or in a couple of years' time is to just take a step back and look at what you're doing and remember why you're doing it. And the people around you, especially, like it's okay to have a couple different faces and captaining styles for different people. And I actually think that works better than just being one type of captain who might be a dictator and not listen to anything that anyone wants to do, but you're not going to be as successful doing that, I don't think.
I suppose, obviously, you've mentioned being captain there. There is such an overlap between the role of a captain and the role of a coach. Do you see it as a benefit or maybe a hindrance? Like, would you recommend someone who wants to go into coaching, to try the captain experience first, or get into coaching as a young person to support yourself being a captain older in the game?
Yeah, I'd say do it that way. So start off with a little bit of coaching if you can, or even volunteering, because that's really important in clubs as well. and start off that way and get to know the people who you could potentially captain. And I think coaching is a style of leadership, and from that then you develop the foundations to be a captain and to be a great captain. But you're learning about who the people are, and then as a captain, you almost know someone's game inside and out. Whereas if you go the other route into it, and I know it's not possible for everyone, and a lot of people are natural born leaders and can just jump straight into captaining. But if you do know those people and you know certain things about what they're working on, it'll make you a better captain, because that person could have a really bad game, and rather than just absolutely losing head with them, you can go on hang on a second, you're actually working on that. So you've tried it, it didn't work, let's go back to the drawing board. Or you just have to be persistent and keep going at it. Like, you might fail 10 times before it works, but at least you've done that, and you can help your players better because you know what they're doing and what they need to achieve it.
Fantastic. And you've talked about your different roles, so your many hats, so to speak. So captain's hat, coach's hat, and then a tutor of the activators or tutor of the coaches. Do you think, they support you in your playing role, as well as your playing role supporting yourself as a coach or an activator or a tutor?
Yeah, so I suppose them supporting my playing role supports in the sense that I can communicate with other people. So being in all those different roles, I have to go and speak to people. I can't hide from it, and I have to put myself out there. And I actually am quite an introvert, so it's a challenge when you're taking on something new to go and stand in a group of people that I don't know. But that's really helped me then as a player, because it means I can go up to the player who I don't really know that well, or we might just not find that our paths cross that much in cricket in the club. But then I can actually go up to them and I can have that conversation and chat to them, and that's through them when you build your relationships with your players, be it the ones you play with or just the ones you're training alongside and don't play with because you're on different teams. But from that kind of supports it and just pushes me on as well as a player to be more than that person that's just showing up to bowl 4 overs every game. There's more to a player, and kind of from the different things that I do, especially all those different hats in cricket. I don't think you realize it until you're asked questions like this, how like I wouldn't have thought to myself, how has that helped me as a player at all? But it is very clear.
Fantastic. So like, you're having an awful lot of leadership experience there in all your different roles. And before we touch on the youth cricket coordinator, you're also a recent graduate of On the Front Foot. And I'm just wondering, would you mind elaborating on your experience of On the Front Foot and how it will benefit you long term?
Yeah, so On the Front Foot, again, it was that kind of daunting experience. We were all at home, sitting on in dark, gloomy evenings for the start of it on a laptop, and I was kind of sitting there for the first couple going, what am I doing here? Like, different people in the room. I was like, they're way further ahead than me. But then soon I realized that actually it was a really great group to be in, and the learnings and potential for learnings were there. So throughout On the Front Foot, we kind of spoke to each other, listened to each other, and our stories are just what we're interested in. And then that paired up with some guest speakers, kind of really opened up my mind to cricket, because there was some cricket related guests, but then also beyond that, and it kind of just made me think about, if cricket was taken away from me right now, what would I have, and what would I do? And throughout that, I've kind of, that program, I've realized that actually it's not the be all and end all if I have to stop playing, because there's so many different roles I can have. And I think that's why I always pick up so many different roles, and being on the front foot has helped me with my leadership in ways that I didn't really think it would. So I now kind of understand what I have to do to, understand others, but then also I have to understand myself before I can think about those other people. So I think that's the one thing I definitely got from on the front foot was, you know, being told essentially to stop thinking about others for a second and go figure out who you are as a person, and then realize what that's going to do to make you easy, like understand others easier. And I know that from speaking to a couple of girls that were on the program, and we had our kind of tie-up event the last one back in May, that was a big thing for them as well, that it's not something you realize that sometimes you just don't understand yourself, and because you don't, it does have a knock-on effect to everything else you do. So I think with On the Front Foot, and I would encourage anyone who's in any way interested in any sort of leadership or has kind of that role in any part of their life, to kind of look into it and actually think about signing up, because it's gonna give you a lot that you realize that you haven't got in your life, but that you actually need. And especially if you're looking to pursue being a leader as well. So I think it was a really great program.
Fantastic, and thanks very much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Hopefully someone will sign up and get the positive experience you have as well. And then in terms of you cricket coordinator with Clontarf, would you mind sharing your responsibilities there?
So I think my responsibilities started off as a few, and then grew over the summer as we realized that there was more to be done. So essentially I at the start of the season set up all the fixtures and liaise with different clubs and team managers to make sure we have all our fixtures in place for the season once they get sent out to us. So that's a long and irritating process. But we got there in the end, and then from that I roster coaches for different sessions. Probably put myself in to coach a few too many with everything else I have going on, but do that as well. And then I'm on hand for all the team managers to help them with getting their teams out each week for the different games, and that kind of stuff. So it sounds like there isn't much going on, but then when you add in all the little things that pop up during the week that I never thought I'd find myself doing, it is a quite a broad role. So I work alongside the boys cricket coordinators, so we both kind of do it together and have to work through. And I think the hardest part of that is when we're fighting over ground availability. You know, I want the girls playing on this day, but so does he, and it's kind of interesting to go through that battle where you go from hating each other and then you figure out an outcome that works for everyone. So yeah, that's probably the role in a nutshell. And then it kind of it's tied up now, but for the summer, but there'll still be work to be done in the background, because I think we'll probably have about a month off before we have to get everything going again for next season.
Brilliant. So coach, graduate, and a facilitator of cricket, fair play, Emma. So obviously this weekend is a super busy weekend for you, right? For a number of reasons. Okay, so juniors are playing, the Colts are playing, the Colts you've been with for about 4 years, and then obviously there's some, is it a Pilkington final? Not sure if it's a big occasion, probably is massive, let's be honest. And are you going to be around?
Well, I'm there for the girls on Saturday, so I'll have my coach's hat on Saturday for a final and a semi-final, but unfortunately I miss out on the Pilkington final, which has been a season-long goal for me. So that's quite a difficult one to take, and I'm still kind of going through the process of dealing with that, because especially as a captain, I almost feel like I'm abandoning my team. But I've got something else locked in that I've got to stick to. So that's been a real challenge. I think it's the first time I've ever experienced that challenge as a captain. Obviously, there's no issues there for me on the coaching front, because I'll be there on the Saturday with the girls. I will miss out if one of the teams make it to the final on Sunday, but I've been able to hand it over to trusty hands, which was a difficult process as well. Lots of interviewing to make sure I got the right candidate, but in terms of the captaining one, it is a real difficult one to have to walk away from your team when you know that it's like you've reached the final hurdle and you don't want anyone to fall, and it will be really, really difficult to have to know that I'm not there, but I've got to trust them as a team as well, and that's what comes with captaining is too, that yeah, okay, you can be a controller in a sense and lead people, but you also just sometimes have to let them off and let them kind of flourish and do their own thing. So it's the first time I've ever experienced having to do something like that. So we'll see what happens. I know I'll be full of nerves on Sunday, but there'll be positive nerves and lots of good luck that I'll be sending to the girls.
Fantastic. And in fairness, you've been with this Colts team for about 4 years, so I'm sure there's been lots of learnings for those players. So, one thing we say to coaches, probably the hardest thing you have to do is let go. So on game day, you're usually letting go. In fairness, as a captain, it's probably a bit more difficult to let go. What will be the advice you'll give to both the Colts and your team as a captain, maybe on Friday night or on Saturday beforehand?
So I'd say to the girls that I'll be going, kind of, I won't essentially be coaching them because the coaching's kind of done. I'll just be there to stand at the side and encourage them on. But I'll just be telling them to go and enjoy it, really, because that's the main thing. Look, you can go out to play sport to win all the time, but you've got to take a step back and have a bit of perspective that winning isn't the be all and end all. And something that I have across both captaining and coaching, and I think it'll be the message that'll be going into the WhatsApp group to everybody that I'm involved with, parents as well, is that sometimes the small wins are better than the one big one. So you've got to build up on those small ones to make you a better person and a better team. So it's that one wicket. If you only take one wicket in a game, you've got to celebrate it, right? And that's a win. And it's the wins for individual players. And that's something I'll kind of remind the girls at their last training session today is think about what it is. What's your goal for the game? And if you win at that, you've won the game. And you've won for you as a player, but also for the wider team. And I think that's something that's really, really important. So I implement that in coaching, but for the last, I think I've been captaining now 3 years. That's something we've had throughout each one of our games. That it's the small wins that matter and they make you a better team.
And thanks for sharing everything here. Where do you learn? So in terms of your coaching or, your facilitating of programs, your facilitating of everything that goes on in the club, where is do you go and find new information and build your repertoire, so to speak?
Other coaches. That's the main one for me. It's actually having the chats with other coaches and asking what they think about certain things. And for a couple of years as both the captain, but more importantly as a coach, I was able to work with Isabel Joyce because she was coaching in our club, and alongside Isabel, I've learned a lot about coaching and how to deliver sessions that have the end session goal at heart the whole way through. But also that's where I've picked up and brushed up basically on my basics as a coach, and that one kind of influential role model in terms of coaching has stood to me, and it's something I try to encourage all of our coaches in the club and any coach I meet, is that your best resource is others. It doesn't have to be that you're going off and you're Googling everything in the world about cricket, but the people around you are the people that know how something will work for the group of kids or adults that you're dealing with, and that's the best place to go for me anyway. But there has been times where I've been like, right, I don't think what they're saying is entirely true, and look, that happens. Sometimes you just got to take what people say with a pinch of salt and step back and go, right, are you sure that's true or not? So for me as well, sometimes something that's really good is the Sky Sports, the master classes that they have with different players during the tests. Like if rain starts falling a over a test match, just stick out the breaks a little bit, and then you'll probably end up crossing a gem. So I think they're really helpful and beneficial too, especially if you want to help someone with something technical. So I try and the odd time sit there and just watch it for a little bit with the notebook. It does get a bit boring, so I do have to walk away, but sometimes I take something from it and sometimes I don't.
Brilliant. And then would there be anything social media wise or a podcast, for example, you would like to share with everybody that could be where you'd find another gem for your coaching?
Yeah, so this year someone told me about a podcast and I started listening to it a lot during the summer, and it's the Inside Edge podcast, which is created and produced by Bhavi Devchand. So I had a really great opportunity to work with Bhavi this summer, but she's actually got her own podcast and she's got some amazing guests on it that talk about coaching, and there's a lot in that that you can take from, but also like, look, you can't be a good coach unless you're comfortable in your own skin, really, I feel. So there's some on her podcast that chat about different things like that, and I know that there was one episode with Mignon Dupree which was really interesting to listen to, and it was about being on the field and off the field, and what you need to do off the field to be good on the field. And I kind of adapted some of what she was saying to coaching. So just remembering that, like, if I'm doing work behind the scenes to prepare for coaching and going into it, then I'm ready to go when I do show up there, because there's nothing worse than showing up to a session as a coach and being unprepared and having 20 kids show up in front of you and you're not knowing what you're doing. So that was a really good one to listen to, and there's a few others as well there that are quite beneficial.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing them, and we'll put that at the end of the podcast for anybody who'd like to sign up as well and have a listen. Emma, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your coaching journey. The biggest takeaways from my own point of view would be the importance of building relationships, and coaching is all about people management. So thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
I hope you enjoyed today's coach discussion. If you would like to share your coaching journey, log on to cricketprograms.com/Coach Connects and sign up today. Here are the social media recommendations discussed in today's coach discussion. Why not check them out and add to your coaching toolbox?